Hello, my brothers and sisters. This is Series 83, and we're going to be talking about Revelations chapter 13 and 1 through 10. And we're going to be talking about the beast tonight. There was a great beast that came out of the sea, and that's what we're going to be talking about. And in this lesson, there is a lot of metaphors, things that has been said here that it does not mean what it say. It means something else. So this is how we're gonna have to break this lesson down. This lesson here, I tell you, is something. It really open up your eyes so that you can see and understand what really is going on in Revelations 13, because Revelations 11, 12, and 13 coincide with one another. And so this is really when it really start to talk about what's going to happen, what happened then in the Old Testament, as well as what's going to happen in the New Testament, which is today, the present. And it's the way God talked to John about this event that's going to happen is just, it's a marvelous thing, because it really opens up, what happened there in Israel at that particular time, because it's all based off of four in Daniel, which is four kings, four rulers. And I'm going to get to that because Daniel chapter 7, the whole chapter of Daniel chapter 7 talks about that. But I'm going to read from Daniel 7:15 through 28. But I want you to yourself to go and research it and see what it says. Start from the first verse and go all the way down to 28. And you'll see exactly what Daniel was talking about. He had a vision, a dream and a vision of God speaking to him and telling him prophesizing to him what was going to happen in the near future. How Israel got caught up in their sins and God put a stop to it. And Babylon came over and took over Jerusalem. So, and it's the same thing today. We have to understand that there are kings today which are under a dictatorship, would love to come over here and just make chaos. And that's what happened in the last 4 years of the president of the United States. It was chaos. So you're going to see here where whatever happened, and the thing is, history repeats itself. This is what you got to remember. History repeats itself. It's just in a different way, different people. But it does repeat itself because you're dealing with two things. You're dealing with the spirit of Christ, and you're dealing with the spirit of the devil. Which the spirit of Christ is love, and the spirit of the devil is hatred. So those are the two opponents that you're going to be dealing with here in these scriptures. And this is how you got to look at it so that you can better understand what God is really talking about. So Revelation 13, number 1 says, "Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his head a blasphemous name." And this is where we're talking about, even though you saw the great beast coming out to sea, the beast ain't nobody but Satan. But it's Satan working through people, working through kings. And it has rolled up out of the sea. Matter of fact, in that day, it was Rome and Greece, because Greece lived right across from, and I'll give you the numbers on that, right across from Israel, and so they could just come right over on the sea, because in that day they had warships just like we got warships now, and they were, because warships were the cheapest way to go and the fastest way to go. Otherwise, they would have to take, if they went by land, which was a long ways, and I'll give you the numbers. They would have to go and travel by foot or by horses or by chariots. It depends on what they had. But all the men did not, they couldn't afford chariots and horses. So generally the generals and the captains and the higher up leadership rode the horses. The men who really fought the war, they had to walk. And you look at the distance they had to walk, man, it took them sometime. It took them a whole year just to get where they had to go, just to fight somebody. And these kings were conquerors. They like to go and conquer. And they wanted to take up everybody's land. These kings wanted to have the whole world under their foot. They want to be the leader of the world. And so they sent these armies to take over different cities and towns, just like Rome did, you see. And they wanted to establish the Romanship. So this is what we're looking at, and this is what we're talking about. And let me read 2. Number 2 says, "Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet was like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion, as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. And the entire world marveled and followed the beast." And what it's saying here is, you got to understand, when you are under a general that's going around conquering different towns and cities and states, countries, these people that did this, was just like, say, for instance, Rome. Rome had the some countries had more technology than other countries. It's just like we do now. United States has more technology than anybody in the whole world. Next to Russia, we have the most technology. So this is the same thing with in Israel day. These kings had more technology. They had swords. Most of the countryside countries, they didn't have swords. They had wooden swords. So especially when you look at it says the beast which I saw was like a leopard. Anytime you see like, meaning that's when you know it is a parable of another, I ain't gonna say creature, but it's a metaphor of another entity. And so just like here it says, it's like a leopard. What is a leopard? It is something that will come at you. It means it's on the prowl. It's coming to destroy you. It's coming to eat you. Just like it said, he had feet like a bear. What did that mean? He had feet like a bear. What's on bear claws? They're claws that will dig into you to hold you down or to destroy you or kill you. And so these are metal things that the soldiers had, that a lot of the other soldiers in different countries did not have. They had weaponry that was so advanced, and they could attack and tear up anybody and kill anybody. And then he's talking about the mouth, like a mouth of a lion. What is the mouth of a lion? It's got sharp teeth. It's got long teeth. It will eat you. It will kill you. So this means certain type of weaponry, like a spear, all right, which is made out of metal. And the dragon gave up his power. Okay, the dragon gave up his power, his throne, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded. Again, this is the sign of a king or a general that had his warriors, and they looked beat up. They had already been through war. They were going through another war because every country they came across, they had to fight these countries. They had to take over these countries. So yes, oh yeah, they was wounded, morally wounded. And his deadly wound was healed. But they was wounded enough, but they was still look like they could still fight. That's the key there. Even though they were wounded, the wounds had healed, and they were ready to fight again. And the entire world marveled and followed the beast. And when they come in and take over, they're marveled because they've never seen an army like this before. To have all the weaponry that they have and all the talent that the generals had. They never seen it before. That's why they marveled, you know. Going to go to Daniel right quick, and I'm going to back up what I just said. Daniel chapter 7, 15 through 28. And like I said, you read the 1 through 14. And please read it because it will explain it even more better. 15 says, I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and the vision of my head troubled me. He saw a vision that he didn't understand, and he needed help. 16 says, I came near unto one of them that stood by. And this was an angel that stood by him in his dream, and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know the interpretation of the things. Number 17, it says, this great beast, which are four kings. This is the interpretation that the angels gave Daniel in the dream, that what these four beasts means, and which it means 4 kings. In that time, there were 4 countries that came to Jerusalem, and they always had war against these people. And which the first one was Babylon. Okay. Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome. Those were the 4 countries that always came to try to destroy Jerusalem. And let me read this too. Okay, where was I? I was at number 17. Okay. I'll come back to this. Our 4 kings, which shall arise out of the earth. You see, out of the earth, out of that area, in that proximity, whether it be across the ocean or in the land, which is miles away, and I'll discuss that with you. 18 says, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and ever. Doesn't matter if Israel or Jerusalem be destroyed, God still is protecting his people. He's still going to bring them back to their homeland. That was the land that was promised to him. God never breaks his word. 19. Then I would know the truth of the 4 beasts, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were like iron. You see, whose teeth was like iron. And that tells you right then that these kings had very sophisticated weaponry. and his nails of brass. See, brass. They had brass back in those days to make the weaponry look, nice, beautiful. Brass, which devour, break in pieces, which would devour you and break you in pieces. That's what a sword would do. That's what a spear would do. And stamp the residue with his feet. See, and they had also had shin splints on their shin, which they could use as a weaponry too. So they had many forms of weaponry. Number 20 says, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the others which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of the horns that had eyes, and a mouth that spoke very great things, whose look was more shout than the fellows. This here is talking about the horns, and that also represent other parts of that beast. Other countries where they had conquered, they joined along with that. Say, for instance, Babylon. Babylon conquered so many countries that they joined along with Babylon. And so these are just the people that's coming up behind them that's helping them out. Because once Babylon took over, you were subject to Babylon. Or once Rome took over, you were subject to Rome or Greece. Number 20 says, and of the 10 horns. I just read that. I'm sorry. Number 21. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. Number 22. Until the Ancient of Days came, which is Jesus, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saint possessed the kingdom. And again, it talks about the horns again, which made war with the saints. Every country that came over tried to destroy Jerusalem. They made war with the saints of Jerusalem. Same as here. If someone come over here and to try to destroy us, they're not coming just to destroy the unsaved folk. They come to destroy the saints. This is what it's all about. They're coming to destroy the saints. Look what happened to what's his name? Hitler. Hitler tried to destroy Jerusalem. He tried to destroy the Jews, God's people. That's what he tried to do. That was his whole aim. And look how many people he killed in the process. Okay. Number 23. Thus he said to the fourth beast, shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth. This is the fourth kingdom, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. This is what this king, this country tried to do, which was Rome. They tried to break it down, all the people, so they could serve Rome, Nero. And at that time in Jerusalem, it was Herod, that controlled the king over Jerusalem. And number 24 says, and the 10 horns out of the kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. You see, 10 more kings going to arise out of that one beast. And another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. When he rise, he just gonna get rid of 3 other kings because he don't like them. You remember? You know, it's just like a gang. A gang. Look at L.A. Bloods and Crips. Same thing. It can only be one ruler, one. And if that ruler don't like you, oh, you got to go. You got to go. So they will devour you. And 24. And the 10 horns out of the 10 kingdoms and the 10 kings shall arise. I just read that. I'm sorry. 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think of the changed time and laws. Look at what's happening in the last presidency. That's what he tried to do. That president tried to change the times and the laws. Look at what's happening right now. Look at the Republicans are trying to change the laws so they can get you not to vote or take away your votes. This is what's happening right now. Same thing happened back then, in that day. History repeats itself. It's just different people. Number 26. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to continue and to destroy it until the end. And the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him, which is Jesus Christ. It's just now he's talking about, this is one thing about Daniel. Daniel got a vision from God, but he was talking about the present, which he was in, and he was talking about the end time, which we are going to be in. So it's a 2-part prophecy here. And this is what Daniel was talking about. And then 28 says, hither is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my congregation must much trouble me, and my conscience charge in me. But I keep the matter in my heart. I keep the matter in my heart. It's just like when John was speaking, and God told him to stop, don't write nothing else. And at that time, John kept it to himself, just like I think it was Ezekiel as well. But this is what Daniel said. I keep it to myself, because he knew if he told it, people's not going to understand. And here we are now talking about those 4 countries, which is Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome. These are 4 dictatorship countries. They were dictators in that day, the same as they're dictators in this day. But these are the main 4 that dealt with Israel. And another one was Syria. Syria also had problem. Israel had a problem with Syria. Syria always would come over there and beat up on Israel, because Israel and Judah was the 2 countries that was separate, because Israel just wouldn't do right. That's why they got beat up so much. Judah was the city of Jerusalem. And so that city really served God. That's where the temple was. And that's where Solomon had built the temple. And David was the king, and Solomon was the king at one time. And in that day it was King Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar. which was in the Babylon Empire. King Darius and King Cyrus of the Persians, they were the kings at that time. Alexander in Greece was the king at that time. Well, he was a general, he was a warrior. So Herod the Great of Judea, he was the king. Nero was of Judea, Herod the Great. But Nero was the what would they call him in Rome? But he was the head man in charge in Rome. And he's the one that dispensed out the generals to go out and conquer the whole land and turn it into just one world united in Rome only. And then we're going to talk about the 5 kinds of dictatorship. Every dictator rules is different. Some dictators are more strict and overbearing than others. And the dictator's personality and behavior. This is what a dictator was. You had to deal with his personality. Ain't no telling what that brother like, because he worked for this. And this is one thing I want you to understand too. Every dictator that runs a country is working for Satan. That's who he works for. That's who he worked for in the Old Testament, and this is who he's working for today. Just like the last president that wanted to be a dictator, run things his way, he worked for Satan. I have to tell you the truth. I can't tell you no lie, because if he didn't do the things he did, starting up fights against one another, even when he went out to speak, he started fights right in his own audience against other people. What kind of person is like that? Nobody but Satan. He wants to feel superior. And this is what happened when you get the attitude and that spirit of the devil. He makes you do all this stuff. And you feel invincible too. And then it says the first one is 5 types of dictatorship. One is a hybrid dictatorship. One is a military dictatorship. One is a monarch. I tell you, I get this word, talking on this word anyway. Monarchy dictatorship, and a personality dictatorship. A single party dictatorship. And a single party dictatorship. Understand this right now. This is what's going on in the United States right now. The Republicans is trying to be a single party dictatorship where they can dictate that they can win every year. They don't want to they don't want people to have free speech anymore. They're going to take that away. Just like they did in the Old Testament. They took it away from Israel and Jerusalem. They took it away. But God still protected his people that served him. Regardless of what, just like Daniel, Shadrach, and Abednego, God protected them, even though they was in another land serving Babylon. See, so God gonna protect his people regardless, and that's the good news right there. And then the difference between countries, they traveled through a boat, horses, or they walked. And Babylon of Israel, Jerusalem, from Babylon to Israel and Jerusalem was 1,678 miles. Persia, from Israel to Jerusalem, was 1,422 miles. That's a long ways to walk, or either to walk, because the soldiers walk, but the higher up personnel, they rode horses. And Greece, from Greece to Israel to Jerusalem, was 1,422 miles, okay, by land. And by boat, it was 780 miles. by boat. Again, Rome to Israel by land was 2,580 miles. That's a long way. You know how long it took them to walk all the way from Rome to Jerusalem? Man, it took them over a year to walk that far. But by boat, it was just 1,434 miles. You see? So this is how they traveled, and this is how they pursued their dictatorship over the world. So we're gonna, okay, let's see where I was here. So I just wanted to clarify that dictatorship thing, because you're gonna find, and I'm gonna show you the dictatorship that's going on here right today. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. There are 10 countries right now, the top 10 countries, which is the first 3 is China, India, and the United States. They have the highest population. China has over 1 billion people, 1,329,000,000. India is the second. They have 1,623,000,000. United States have 318 million. And that's in, okay, I'm sorry. But that was in 2000. It's extended to the 2050. 2021, China got 1,444 million. 1,444,000,000. India, 1,393,000,000 people. United States has 332 million people. And then you have Indonesia, then you have Pakistan, then you have Brazil, then you have Russia, then you have Mexico, Nigeria, and something else I want to show you. Oh yeah, on this chart it says also, from 2020 to 2050, China is declining, will be declining in people. Also, Russia, from 2021 to 2050, they will also be declining in people, because China and Russia is ran by one person, a dictator. A dictator. India is beginning to be a dictatorship. The United States is beginning to be a dictatorship. Indonesia is ran by the rest of these: Mexico, Indonesia, Pakistan, Brazil. They are ran by a military. I think I had that over here. Yeah, military dictatorship. So it has 5 ways of being ran. 5 ways. Matter of fact, that personality dictatorship turns out to be an occult. Matter of fact, all of them are occults, really. All of them are occults, because everything is ran by Satan. They have the same mindset as Satan. And I just want to show this to you. You can probably see it real well. So up close, just hold it up for a minute, and you can always stop your camera and see exactly what I was talking about. All right. And now let's get back. Where was I? Number 4. Okay, yeah, marveled and followed the beast. Number 4 says, so they worship the dragon. People on earth, they worship the dragon, who gave authority to the beast. And they worship the beast, saying, who is like the beast? Who is like the beast? A metaphor again, it's a metaphor. Who is like the beast? How many people on earth is like the beast? And Who is able to make war with the beast? Who? How many people on earth is able to make war with the beast? Which means with the Republicans. Who's able to make war with the Republicans? Who was able to make war with the last president we had? They tried to take him to court 2 times, and it still didn't work. Still didn't work because the Republican will not let it be done. So they stick together like glue, as you can see. Number 6. No. Number 5. And he was given a mouth speaking great things and blaspheming. And he was given authority to continue for 42 months, which is 3.5 years. And this is talking about the end time. This time that's after us, this is what it's talking about. And this great person is going to blaspheme. He's going to blaspheme against God. Number 6 says, then he opened his mouth and blasphemed against God. To blaspheme his name, his tabernacle. This is Satan. Here's what happened. His tabernacle and those who dwelt in heaven. This is what Satan did before he got kicked out. He blasphemed against God. Remember Isaiah, where it talks about what he said, who he was going to be over. He was going to be over God. He was going to have his kingdom over God. It was all this, I call them the 5 deadly eyes. Eye this and eye that and eye this, you see? And this is what Satan was trying to do. He was making himself, he was building up a coup as well to try to run God out of his kingdom. And he take over. He crazy. Number 7 says, it was granted to him who make war with the saints and to overcome them. And the authority was given to over every tribe, tongue, and nation. He's just going to go through the whole world. He ain't wasting no time. Number 8 says, all who dwelt on the earth will worship him. Whose name have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. And he's going all the way back from the foundation all the way up here. Those ones who serve God, their names will be in the Lamb's book of life. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. Number 10, he who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. If you teach people, the false prophet, you teach people wrong and lead people the wrong way, you're going to go into captivity as well. You're going to go to hell too. This is what he's telling you. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. If you serve the devil, but you call yourself serving God, no, you're going to be killed by this. You're going to be killed by the same sword, which is the word of God. Yes, because Jesus come back, and he is going to judge us all. And your name better be in the Lamb book of life. Because if it isn't, you are going, he's going to say, depart from me, I don't know you. He is the patience and the faith of the saints. Jesus is the patience and the faith of the saints. Yes, he is. Let me read the summary here. Let me read the summary. All right, let me read the summary. The summary here is, and I'm going to talk about Daniel. And Daniel's vision of the 4 beasts being with a windy night and a troublesome sea. In my vision, in the vision at night, I looked, and there before me were the 4 winds of the heavens, chucking up the great sea. Daniel 7 and 2. And Daniel watched 4 great beasts. See now, John here, John in Romans, Revelation 13 is talking about 7 beasts. Daniel is talking about 4 beasts. So this lets you know that after our time right now, it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse. It's gonna be 7 kings, which I showed you on the chart. Look at those 10. Oh, and by the way, guess how many dictatorships there are in the world? There's over 50. There are over 50 countries that's ran by dictatorship. 50. There's over 400 countries in the world. So look how Satan has slowly been processing this thing. Because all the other countries, they're smaller. They're less in numbers. Matter of fact, read that to you. Matter of fact, in 2021, the 10 was 4 billion. The top 10 countries were 4,500,000,000, over 500 million. The rest of the world was 3 billion, over 336 million. All total together in the world, 7,875,000,000 people that's in the world. Just to give you an idea of where we at, how many people and how many dictators are in the world right now as we speak. And how many countries that's not even counting the countries that's beginning to be turned over as a dictatorship. Satan knows he has a short time. So he's trying to get up all these countries to become dictatorship so he can take over, so he can attack the saints. That's his job, to attack the saints and take your freedom away. But we're free in Jesus Christ. We're free. And as a matter of fact, I can't think of the scripture that we read. I read that on. But Jesus told his disciples when they came back and was laughing and having fun, telling Jesus, oh, we cast out demons. And Jesus told them, he said, don't rejoice over casting out demons. Rejoice over your name being written in the Lamb's book of life. He said, that's what you ought to rejoice over. So I have a total different concept of how I rejoice now. I don't rejoice over how many people I save or how many people I bring to Christ or whether I preach this message or that message or taught this Bible study or taught this Sunday school. I don't rejoice off of that. I rejoice off of my name being written in the Lamb book of life. That's my joy now. Just to know, yes, I'm doing God's will. I'm obeying him. And my name is written in the Lamb's book of life. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Oh my God. Where was I? Let's see. Okay, and Daniel watched 4 great beasts, each different from the other, emerge from the dark waters. And see, you can't look at these beasts like they're dragons or something like that, or some fish came out of the water, because that's not what it's talking about. It's a metaphor that has to do with kings and their armies who come to take control. They come from the water, from another land, but that's what it means. Number 1, the first of Daniel's 4 beasts is like a lion, and it had the wings of an eagle. Daniel 4:7-4. And Daniel watched, and the wings are torn off the beast, and the creatures stand erect like a man, and a human mind is given to it. And here we go again. It's just a metaphor, and it's talking about this king that comes, this general that comes over to try to take over. That's all it's talking about. Keep that in mind, and you will always know what Revelation is talking about. And you will always be able to understand it. See, that's one thing about God. God did not leave us clueless. He always left us with an answer if we can see it out of the eyes of God and out of the Spirit of God. A creature. Okay. Oh, the four great beasts and the four kings that will rise from the earth. Now we're talking about the earth. The first beast is representing of the one king, which is King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. It rises to humans. It rises to humans like a status reflects King Nebuchadnezzar deliverance from a beastly existence and his insight into the true nature of God. King Nebuchadnezzar knew God, understood God, and he did what God said do. Because Daniel was down there with King Nebuchadnezzar, and Daniel was one of his elect people in the in his court. So he had a chance to hear Daniel and Daniel told him who God was. Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, same thing. Matter of fact, King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and Daniel had to interpret it. But anyway, the verse from the beast exactly, and that's in Daniel 4:34 through 35. Read these scriptures because these scriptures will open up a lot of insight to you. And then the second beast in Daniel's vision is like a bear. It was raised up out of one of its size, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth. Remember when we read earlier about the 3 kings? Okay. This same beast destroyed those other 3 kings and took over their kingdom. This who did it. This is exactly who did it. Babylon, King Nebuchadnezzar. He's the one that did that. And that's in Daniel 7:5. A voice tells the second beast to devour flesh until it is satisfied. The beast represents the second one, which it represents Persia. Persia's empire. The rising up of the one side of the creature indicates that the one of the kingdom's parts, Persia, would be dominant. Persia fought against Israel a lot. Medes and Persians, these 3 conquired nations are known to be Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt. Babylon took over all these countries. And because Persia took over Babylon and Lydia and Egypt. Persia did that. Okay, and then it talks about the third of the 4 beasts is like a leopard, except it has 4 bird-like wings on its back and 4 heads. Again, we're talking about kingdoms. Well, the wings mean kings. And heads as well, leaders. Daniel 7:6. This beast is given authority to rule. See, this beast is given, this king is given authority to rule. The third beast represents Greece, and that was Alexander the Great. He was a conqueror, and he went everywhere to conquer. That was his main thing, and he was a general, and an empire known for the swiftness of its conquests. The 4 heads are predicted of a four-way division of the empire. Following Alexandria. Remember when in the last session we talked about the dragon and it had a tail? This is what it's talking about. It's talking about Alexandria, who was the leader, but he had the four heads and predicted of the four ways division of the empire. The empire was split up into four divisions. The main general, and then you got the colonel, then you got another colonel and another colonel. They would take their forces other places in the world to conquer. And this is what it means here. Daniel's vision of the ram and the goat give further details of the second and the third kingdom. There's a second and third kingdom that came in Daniel's time. And that's Daniel 8. And for right now, we're going to end that right now. I will come back and start at Revelations 13, 11 through 18. And I will finish that out. But I just wanted to give, God wanted to give insight to you so that you could better understand the metaphors that's going on in these scriptures, so that you can understand. And it's all a mind thing, the way you think. Because what I had to do, I had to go look up every one of these countries and saw who it was ran by, and do the research and see what happened to those people, how they ran their dictatorship, and why they ran it that way. So that gives you a lot of insight so that you can understand the Bible even more. And that way you don't have to be afraid of the Bible, because we're not talking about dragons, lions, and bears. We're just talking about regular people. That's all we talk about. That they just happen to be in leadership. That's all it is to it. And this is what you need to know. This is what God wants you to know, so that you can better understand Revelation and not be afraid of it, but enhance it and just take it as it is, so that you can grow from it, so that he can fulfill his spirit in you, so that you can be a better person living for the Lord. And you don't have to walk around being fearful all the time. But I do leave this with you, and God loves you, and I love you too. And until we meet again, God bless. And you have a beautiful Sunday morning service. All right. God bless.